And we are joined now by Andy Mitten. Andy, difficult circumstances for football fans of teams who get so annihilated in public as Manchester United did yesterday. How are you doing, sir? How are you?
I'm okay. I've had better weekends, various reasons, but I'm sure many Manchester United fans can relate to that. I was at Old Trafford yesterday. I went into the ground with optimism. I think I'll always do that, even when Manchester United are terrible. I always think they're going to win. And the optimism can vanish after 10 minutes if they don't start well. But, 31 seconds into yesterday's game, I was sat right opposite where the penalty was awarded. And I thought, this is it. It's going to be a fourth straight win. Bruno put the ball in. And clearly I was completely wrong, because within a few minutes, United's defence had fallen apart, committed a series of basic errors, and Tottenham were ripping through Manchester United's midfield and defence. And I've seen a 6-1 defeat before at Old Trafford, but even that was only 1-0 at half-time against Manchester City in 2011. Tottenham were unforgiving. Manchester United were dreadful. It got even worse when they went down to 10 men after Anthony Martial was sent off. He was stupid, no doubt, but the way that Lamela went down was risible. And it was just a pretty flat, horrible day. Walked away from the ground, sort of reeling at the result, and then watched a little bit of Liverpool and was thinking, and saw Leicester's result and was thinking, this is crazy. It's not just the football at the moment. There's obviously the transfer window. So I spent the first half of yesterday writing about Edinson Cavani. And that came out the blue. And I called his old strike partner, Diego Forlan, in Uruguay. I thought, he knows Cavani far better than I do. He knows what it's like. And I just said, be straight with me. Can he still play? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So he was quite positive about Cavani. And I felt conflicted, because I do actually think he'll do well. But the signing also smacks of, not desperation, but unplanned anti-cultural reboot, which Ed Woodward had talked about with Manchester United. Cavani's 33. He's the same age as Messi. He'll be on good money. United have tried to sign him twice before, and money was the obstacle, but needs must. I think Odion is not to the required standard, and I think you're going to see more activity today. Alex Telles, the Brazilian left-back from Porto, he's going to sign as well, and I know United are trying to get more transfers done by the end of transfer window. And having watched the game against Spurs, I think it's fair to say they need those transfers to be done, because the team is well short. It wasn't just a one-off that. United were lucky to get anything at Brighton in the league, and they've lost the first 2 home games at Old Trafford for the first time since 86, 87. I'm old enough to remember those games. And by the end of October, it was clear that the manager was going to be sacked, and he was. Alex Ferguson came in at the start of November, and the rest was history. But this team are a long way from the greats of Ferguson's.
Sorry, Andy, I was just going to ask, what are you seeing, what are you hearing yesterday? You compare it to the 6-1 before, but there were fans that day. I mean, you could hear everything, I'd imagine, yesterday.
Yeah, you could hear everything. And I put a picture online outside Old Trafford before the game. It was just empty. It's just really sad. The shops boarded up and up for sale, and that whole match day economy has just died. And United We Stand is part of that. Not that we've died, because we've got other ways of putting our fans in out there. But I was thinking this might take 2 months, but it's gone right on now. And I walked right around the ground. I walked like a mile around the ground, and the security is amazing at United, but what does that mean? There's no fans there, and the atmosphere inside the ground, it's weird. I don't like it. Is it better than nothing? It probably is. You could hear the players. I quite enjoy that. I find that I watch the games really closely, because I sometimes watch the fans. I listen out for the songs that they sing. I like the terrace culture. I've long written about the fan culture. And 20 metres in front of me yesterday, Tottenham's players were dancing and going absolutely crazy, all for the benefit of one TV cameraman. So it's slightly surreal. You got to watch the game very closely because was there a goal there? It's weird, and maybe it was a good thing that fans were not inside that ground yesterday. I'm not sure the result would have been the same if fans were inside the ground. It's got to be a factor. I don't think would Villa have beaten Liverpool 7-2? Maybe with fans it would have been 8-2. But no, it's changing the results. It's changing the way that the teams play. I think the players are still absolutely trying. I don't think there's any question of that. I mean, United's players just made loads of mistakes yesterday. Tottenham were excellent. I've got to say, they were excellent. And I don't blame Jose Mourinho for pushing and pushing for more and more. I'd do exactly the same. But you can hear the individual cries. You can see, the manager goes back to the bench and slams the seat down in frustration. You can hear the seat slam down. And United lost 6-1 at home to Tottenham. It's an absolutely shocking result. And they conceded 11 goals in the first 3 league matches. So all that optimism which built before and around the lockdown, and the club acted very well too, and Fernandes was a game changer in many ways, and the team stayed unbeaten. Only got to the two semi-finals, but looked still a long way from winning any of those trophies: Europa League, FA Cup, League Cup. But all of that has vanished because that was built on a pretty good defence as well as Fernandes. The whole team were playing well. They're all playing dreadfully at the moment. All of them. I can't think of one who comes out at the start of this season with much credit. Pogba's been dreadful. Fernandes has just been tries, but nothing's happening. The whole of the defence. That defence were not actually bad for most of last season, but the form of them has just fallen off a cliff. And I think the manager's got to take some of the blame as well, because he's spent a lot of money. Some of these are his players, and it's very worrying for Manchester United fans.
Is the main worry that Harry Maguire is not playing well and is making mistakes? Because, Lindelof obviously carries the blame. He's not on the team, but actually the defence gets worse when Lindelof comes out. And the point about the sending off is obviously very important. It has an impact on the end of the game, but it certainly didn't have an impact on Spurs going 2-1 up, because they were 11 aside at that point, and Spurs were already beginning to show where the threat was, and Manchester United had already shown that they were making defensive mistakes.
You're right. Spurs were shredding United long before Martial was sent off. Maguire had a terrible game. Bailly started because he's fit. He's played really well in the 2 League Cup games away at Luton and Brighton. He didn't start last week. The coaches still feel that there's a mistake in Bailly and that he's injury prone. Now, he doesn't want to be injury prone, but the coach has got to make the decision. So, and with Lindelof, they felt that maybe he has been coasting because of lack of competition, and that he's played well in the past. One of his best games was against Manchester City, and he'll play well in the future. But Bailly deserved his chance. I don't think anyone complained when the team was named yesterday, but after a few minutes, he wasn't taking it. He was as culpable as the others. Him and Maguire had awful games. The whole back four did. Aaron Wan-Bissaka had a good season until the end of last season. And I don't know if there's other reasons for his form dropping so badly, but it has done. And going forward, he's just not like a right back at a top football club should be, in terms of his ability to cross and his distribution. Defensively, he's much better. Luke Shaw's going to have a lot more competition now. If you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have thought that would have come from Brandon Williams, but I think the club would let him go out on loan. So that's why they brought Alex Telles in. And the club still feel they're well short of players in several positions, and the coaches are frustrated that players have not come in. It's been a really limp transfer window. Only one player has come in so far, and that inactivity, that failure to bring players, but also to move players on, has just seen the mood dip and dip. And then when that Palace defeat happened for the first game of the season, that was the incendiary to set off a feeling of just utter frustration among the supporters. And the season's lurching, so there were 3 consecutive wins before yesterday. United have not lost an away game since January. It's the best run since 1999. And I'm sort of pulling statistics here because you can swing either way with how it's going, but I don't think it will be acceptable if the team are winning 4 out of 14 first league games like last year. There's increased pressure on Ed Woodward, the leading executive, and also the Glazer family. They've never been popular. They never will be popular. I don't think any owners of Manchester United have ever been popular. Martin Edwards wasn't popular. David Gill wasn't popular. That's just the way that it is. But fans see the Glazers just taking out the dividends. In mitigation, they've spent a lot of money. Managers have spent a lot of money. They've just spent it pretty terribly. And I thought that Ole Gunnar had a better eye for recruitment. And I think the players that he's brought in, they were doing well. But Dan James is another one. His form's just fallen right off. And if you're the manager, you've got to get the best out of the players, especially the ones you've brought in yourself. So opinions are changing, they're shifting. I still think that United fans would love to see Ole Gunnar come good as a coach. But I'd be lying if I said there were no doubts.
Like that does seem like more of a hope rather than an expectation at this point. And after today, Andy, there is nothing more. Not that they did much, but there's nothing more that Ed Woodward can do. You can criticise. Manchester United fans will be critical of how inactive Manchester United were for the last couple of months. But if things get worse, there is one head that can roll that might make an instant difference, and that is Solskjaer's. It is the fixable thing. It may not be fair, but that will be the fixable thing over the next month, 2-3 months. How likely is that going to happen, that they will actually make that decision if things do get worse?
It's dependent on results. You saw last year that things got pretty bad by the October. I think United were 14th going into the game against Liverpool. And I don't think that'll be acceptable. Again, I don't think anyone wants to sack Solskjaer, especially at the club, because they pinned their hopes on him. And there's talk of this cultural reboot. And I've written the cover of the new 442, and there's lots of optimism in there because there are good things happening. I see that as a journalist. I speak to loads of people inside the club, and I've done for years. I've done United We Stand for 31 years. I've got contacts everywhere, and the youth system is looking much better. The mood has definitely been much better, but the mood is also dependent on results. And there's a scrutiny and pressure around Manchester United that maybe you'd only also find at Liverpool or Barcelona or Real Madrid, or maybe the clubs in Milan or Bayern Munich. And if results continue to go badly, I think the mood would, obviously more people would doubt Ole Gunnar, but the mood would also go against the Glazers and Ed Woodward. But what's the alternative? What's the plan B? It's not like fans can say there's a rival ownership challenge. This is a club at the moment which is hemorrhaging money because of the COVID situation. Yesterday was another home game without fans, another £4.2 million lost. So maybe that brings the price of Manchester United down. But there's a lot of economic uncertainty. To be fair, United have looked after their staff. They've not furloughed the staff. The players are still being paid. But I think the next set of financial results will be poor. So the only thing that can sort of lift all that is the team playing well and results being good. And if that doesn't happen, you've got a major problem there. I don't know when the manager will get sacked. I don't know if he will get sacked. I don't want him to get sacked. I feel that United tried with David Moyes, and then a different type of manager with Van Gaal, and then another different type with Jose Mourinho, and then they're trying, the nice guy Ole Gunnar, and can nice guys win? I'd like to think so, but he's under a huge amount of pressure because the players that he wants are not being brought in, and the club is saying it's difficult to bring players in, and the fans are saying we're not really buying that because we know that they're not funded in the same way as City or Chelsea, but Tottenham have managed to bring good players in. We saw that yesterday. Liverpool have managed to bring good players in as well. Didn't see that yesterday. So there's got to be minimum expectations. It's Manchester United. It's losing games at home 6-1 is simply not acceptable. Losing consecutive home games is not acceptable. And a lot of people are culpable for those results.
How much do you expect today in terms of activity, apart from Tellez and Cavani? Is it your understanding that there will be other players coming in?
Yeah, I know they're definitely trying to get players. The two I probably know most about, because my connections would be Facundo Pelestre from Uruguay. I wrote that story at the start of July. My source for that story was Pelestre's manager, Diego Forlan, and knowing that Ole Gunnar had spoke to him. He's an 18-year-old right winger. And then I checked that out with the club because no one had written it. And they said, yeah, it's true. I don't think he would be brought into the first team fold. He's not ready yet. Certainly what his manager told me. But a very exciting prospect. I'm understanding that that's set to happen. It hasn't happened yet. And as we know, transfers can break down. With Dembele, I was told on Friday, Barca publicly, not for sale. He's got a big future here. Privately, if we get a big enough offer, we'll sell him. And I was also told, and this is, I've watched Barca very frequently for 20 years now. I've got decent contacts there. And my best one said, Barca want to bring two players in. Memphis Depay, remember him? And Eric Garcia, who's in the city of Manchester. And they won't be able to bring either in unless they get some money in. And that money they expect to come from Dembele. Will it happen? I don't know. I just know the circumstances around it. And I know the sources are telling me that information. United's perspective on that was that they wanted a loan, didn't want to be paying 60 million, 70 million, whatever. Dembele cost 105 million euros when he signed from Dortmund, but he's had bad injuries. He's incredible when he's fit, and he's fit at the moment, but he hasn't been the success that Barca fans hoped that he would be. So there could be movement there, and United are still been trying to get Sancho, but will it happen? I don't know. I just know the circumstantial evidence around it, which is United want him. Dortmund have long maintained they're not budging on the fee. I understand the player wants to join Manchester United, and we'll know by the end of today whether that happens. I cannot see United paying 120 million in these COVID times for any footballer. Will the desperation of yesterday's results mean that they do? I doubt it, but I'm not the club's financial officer. I just write what I told and try and well source the information that I write.
Andy, last question for me is there a bang of Groundhog Day off things at the moment where if they go 4 wins from the first 14 games, the manager will get sacked, a new manager will get picked. It's the same people making the selection on the manager and ultimately deciding whether or not they're going to back him in the transfer market, that the cultural reboot hasn't happened and there's no real sign of that happening?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair comment. And what a sorry tale. I mean, that cultural reboot was explained to me face to face by Ed Woodward last October. And okay, let's take it at face value. Let's see if you're right. Yeah, it's true. Maguire looks decent. Wan-Bissaka looks decent. Dan James looks decent. Bruno Fernandes would come in and look decent. But the mood and the facts have shifted against that now. And this well-planned recruitment policy, which he explained, does not look well planned from the evidence of the transfer window so far. If the targets come in who United have been trying to get, then great. There'll be some people saying United have done well here, but even then there's a groundhog feeling. I compared it to 15 under Van Gaal. Season started pretty terribly. Went out and bought Di Maria, Falcao, then beat QPR at home 4-0 after the international break, and yeah, this is the Man United, they're back, and I bought into it, and then the team lost 5-3 at Leicester. So there's definitely a groundhog feel, and I don't think there's much appetite for just a continuation of that going round and round and round, where United stay 3rd and 4th and nowhere near winning the league. They've not put a decent title challenge in since 2013. That said, and people don't aware this, I think it's harder for any club because every Premier League team now is financially much stronger than they have been historically. United used to be able to go and get pretty much any player they wanted. That's just much more difficult now. and the funding structure of Chelsea and Manchester City, that wasn't an issue in the 90s when United was so dominant. It was United and Arsenal with two brilliant managers, and Liverpool struggling because they were going through the same sort of cycle that Manchester United seem to be going through now.
Briefly, Andy, just before we wrap up then, if the manager in wait, if Solskjaer does get sacked, is Pochettino, does that change things dramatically? Because perhaps the cultural reboot comes as a result of having a figure like Pochettino as your manager.
Yeah, if Ole lost his job today, he'd be the number one favourite, no doubt about it. I wrote about him in 2016. I wrote about two people who I thought should get the United job. Ryan Giggs, and got slaughtered for that. He had approval ratings of about 8% from Manchester United fans. But that was, I felt that he should get a job after Louis. And then Pochettino, obviously a very, very, very good manager. Part of me feels even uneasy speculating about it, because I still hope that Ole Gunnar does well. And I don't want to get into this other cycle of like, if he doesn't win at the weekend, then he's going to lose his job, because I've got absolutely no evidence of that. And the club have shown that they'll stick with the manager during the real tough points of last year. He just needs to get his team winning again, because it's been a really turbulent start to this season. And he'll have his reasons. You know, the teams who played in Europe in August haven't started the season well. There's been these freak results, but I think after 10 games of the season, you've got to start looking and saying, is there a continued improvement here, or is this team still wildly inconsistent?
Fair point. Good stuff. And, you know, it's good that you will come on and speak to us in the aftermath of a difficult weekend, Andy. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
That's Andy Mitten there, the editor and publisher of United We Stand, and, of course, a journalist you can read in 442 and The Athletic.